Howdy, it's Kyle with another geography video, this time talking about leaving California and moving to the South. And I recently posted another video talking about people that are moving cross country and some of the attitudes and emotions associated with that. This video is more about the practicalities of moving from California and what you can expect if you move to a different part of the country, specifically the Southeast. Right now, you can do a search on YouTube for this topic and you will get a million hits. And pretty much all the videos are going to fit into three different categories. The first will be just general news reports talking about the stats of people leaving the state. The second will be kind of like loud rants about people leaving the state and why it's just so terrible to live there. And the third will be people that are saying, I gotta leave, I gotta get out, it's so expensive, I'm leaving this terrible state. But what you really won't find at all are videos from people that have actually done that move, kind of following up years later as to what you can expect. So I'm going to hopefully fill that void with this video. I was born and raised in California and didn't leave the state until after I graduated college. And what caused me to leave was I went to graduate school at the University of South Carolina, which at the time was just about the top geography department in the country. So it was a very exciting opportunity. I got to experience new things on the whole other side of the country. So it was really cool. After I finished graduate school, moved back to California to work for a few years, but my wife is from the South and she didn't really want to leave the South very much. So we moved to where she got a job in Tennessee, and we've been living in Chattanooga for about 10 years now. In recent years, there have been a lot of people from California that left the state to move to other states, with the number one reason being the high cost of housing, which is more expensive in California than pretty much anywhere else in the U.S. And this started back in the years, 06 to 08, back in those ridiculously inflated house prices years where everyone thought their house was worth $3 million. Everyone was watching those stupid flip this house shows where you can buy a house for $10,000, put $3 into it, and sell it for $4 million. So, of course, these prices were super inflated. Banks were giving out loans to anybody with a job. So, of course, it caused the housing crash. But during those years, people would sell their house for these ridiculously inflated prices, buy a significantly cheaper house in other parts of the country, and then live off the profit they made from the sale. There's a misconception that most of the people that are leaving California are being quote-unquote priced out and they're moving because they can't afford to live there anymore. Well, that's not really the case. Most people are leaving California because they're making money off their house sale. So they either own their home or they've lived there long enough to where they have enough equity in it to where they can buy a house with cash in other parts of the country off the profit they made from the sale, because the houses are so much more expensive in California. But for people that are actually struggling to make ends meet, people that are working for minimum wage or low wage jobs in California aren't the people that are leaving the state. Because if you're working minimum wage in California and you move to Tennessee, well, you're going to still be making minimum wage there. There's nowhere in the country where you can afford to live off of minimum wage. So it's not the low income people that are leaving. Again, it's the people that already own their homes or have a lot of equity in their home to where they can afford to move. So it's not really people being priced out. Again, it's people that are taking advantage of the high cost of housing in California and the low cost of housing in the Southeast. One thing that people often overlook is that salaries are a lot higher in California than the Southeast. So yes, people in California are paying a lot more for their rent or mortgage payment, but they're making a lot more money than people in the South. So the idea that things are a lot cheaper in the South just isn't true, especially when you consider the fact that everything other than housing costs about the exact same. For example, I just bought a new car, and it doesn't matter whether you live in Tennessee or California, the car costs the exact same. So your car payment is going to be the same no matter where you live, but you're making a lot less money in the South. So that car payment is much higher relative to your salary than it is in somewhere that has high wages. But it's not just cars. Everything pretty much costs the exact same in the South as it does in California. So you think about your phone bill, your wireless bill, if you have cable or satellite, you have Netflix or Hulu, your grocery bill, utilities, your car insurance, your property insurance, all these things cost pretty much the exact same in California as they do in the Southeast. So I think a lot of folks in California think that everything is more expensive there than it is in other parts of the country when it's not. Think about, you go on to Amazon to buy something. It's not like it's going to show up as a higher price because you're logging on your computer in California. I mean, things cost the same. So, don't think that everything is more expensive in California when it's pretty much just the housing. Gas prices are a little bit higher in California, but you might pay $50 a month more in gas prices living in California, but $600 a year is not that much when you consider how much higher the salaries are in California than the Southeast. But of course, housing is the most expensive part of your monthly budget. So in California, you're going to pay half to 3/4 of your monthly budget on just your rent or mortgage, where in the South, you might be paying a quarter to a half of your monthly salary on your housing. But again, in the South, because you're making so much less, all those other things like your car payment and your groceries and your other bills are going to be a much higher percentage of your overall salary. In California, those are a much smaller part of your overall salary. So guess what? It comes out as a wash. And expensive housing isn't all across the state of California. I mean, most people do live in the LA or San Francisco Bay Area, and that's very expensive. But a lot of folks don't live in those parts of the state. And the other parts of the state, like where I'm from, the housing isn't any more expensive there than it is in Chattanooga. So, for example, my brother's living in an apartment, regular kind of 2-bedroom place, normal place, nothing special, normal kind of neighborhood, paying $800 a month for it. Well, my wife and I were living in an apartment while we were getting our house built, 2-bedroom, normal kind of place, nothing special, normal neighborhood for $875 a month. So, again, not everything is cheaper in the South as it is in California, although, again, most people in California do live in those large metro areas where things are a lot more expensive. The cost of housing is the number one reason why people are leaving California, but what's the second biggest reason? Taxes. There's a perception that taxes are a lot higher in California than other states because it does have the highest state income tax rates in the country. So people look at these maps to show, look, California has a 13% state income tax rate. But what they're missing out on are the tax brackets. So yes, millionaires are paying very high taxes in California, but the middle class and poor are actually paying less in state income taxes in a lot of these states in the Southeast. So I'll use South Carolina as an example, which has very high state income taxes. But because the top tax bracket is only 7%, it seems like it is lower than California, whose highest tax bracket is 13%. But take a look at these numbers. If you're middle class, you're paying more in state income taxes in South Carolina than you are in California. And I just picked a few random states here, just, from different parts of the country to give you an idea of what the tax brackets are like. It really isn't that much more in California if you're middle class or poor. So California being it's a state with a ton of millionaires. So millionaires are paying a lot in taxes, but you and I are paying about the same as you would in any other state. You might be thinking, but hey, Kyle, you live in Tennessee. There's no state income tax there. Isn't that fantastic? No, because we have by far the highest sales tax in the country. So the analogy I use is in California or places with income tax, you get socked in the gut once a year. It's like you take a hit from the man once a year. Tennessee, you're getting mosquito bites all year long. So you're getting nickel and dimed up the wazoo. And I think people in Tennessee think they're kind of getting away with something. Oh, we're not really paying taxes, but you're paying a lot of taxes. Think about the tens of thousands of dollars you spend money on each year for things that are sales tax. You're paying a little bit more for that each time if you live in Tennessee or other states with high sales tax. So it comes out evenly in the end. You're just getting nickel and dime in Tennessee. In California, you're getting socked in the gut. And you look at the states that have the highest sales tax: Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Alabama. These are 4 of the 7 poorest states in the entire country. So clearly, having low or no income tax with a high sales tax isn't a structure that works well. It doesn't work. But these are 4 of the 7 poorest states. And personally, I like Delaware's tax structure with pretty high income tax, but no sales tax. To me, that's the better way to do it. Delaware's a much wealthier state than any of the states in the Southeast, so I prefer that structure. I think sales tax is whack, so I'll take income tax over sales tax any day. So in the end, there are really only 3 types of people that are going to benefit by moving from California to the Southeast. The first are people that, again, have a lot of equity in their homes or already own their homes. They can make a lot of money from the sale of it, buy a house in the South with cash. The second are people that are millionaires, just don't want to pay those high income taxes in California. They can move to Texas and not have to pay anything on their incomes. And the third are people like me, just want to go somewhere else and experience something different without any regard whatsoever to how much it costs to live there. I think it's kind of funny that people in California think, well, it's so expensive here and it's so much cheaper to live in the South. I would be so much better off. Well, what do you think it's like in the South? Everyone has a Mercedes convertible and a BMW SUV. Everyone's rolling their own cigarettes with $100 bills. You turn the faucet on, liquid gold comes out. I mean, what are you talking about here? People in the South are every bit as poor as people in California or New York. It's expensive to live everywhere in the U.S. People be poor. The poverty rate's going up in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you go, people are getting poor. The middle class are getting much, much smaller. So it's got nothing to do with California or the housing costs or income taxes or sales taxes. I don't know what the problem is, but people are getting poorer. So in California, because the housing costs more and there's a lot more stuff on the news about people living, I think people are under the false impression that it's just so much cheaper to live in the South when it's not. So take a look at the salary of just some random jobs I chose. So teachers, police officers, and firefighters, just typical kind of jobs, and the difference in the salaries you're going to make in California versus the Southeast, and they're twice as much or more if you're living in California than the South. So say my wife and I are both teachers in Tennessee, we have a combined salary of $100,000. And if we moved to California, we'd have a combined salary of about $150,000. So the house that we have in Tennessee, if we had this house in California, it would cost about $2,000 to $2,500 more per month than our house in Tennessee. Not $2,000 to $2,500 total, but that much more. So that's a lot more, but our salaries would be more than enough to make up for the price difference. So again, we'd still be the same standard of living as we have in Tennessee. We'd be paying more for stuff, but we'd be making a lot more money. And sure, you might be in a specific situation where moving from California to somewhere cheaper is going to be a big benefit for you financially, but for most people, it's really not going to be that big of a deal. So financially, you're not going to be so much better off in other parts of the country, again, unless you have all that equity in your home. But for most people, you're not going to really get that much benefit financially by moving from California to the South. So that's the financial, nerdy, kind of boring stuff. Now let's get to the more fun stuff, some of the more cultural, other types of things that you might expect from moving from California to the Southeast. First off, the culture shock isn't going to be the huge thing you might expect it to be. So, if you're from California, growing up, I was like, oh, the South is a bunch of dumb hicks, a bunch of barefoot, toothless hillbillies, and that's not the way it is. So you can find some stupid rednecks like that too. But the part of California I'm from, there's plenty of stupid rednecks there too. So you can find the white dude with the giant dreadlocks in Georgia, and you can find the guy with a rebel flag on the back of his giant Ford F-150 in California. So Americans are Americans. So the culture shock really isn't that big of a deal. But what will be a big difference is the climate. And that's going to be the hardest thing for people from California to deal with if leaving the state. People in California really take for granted how nice the weather is. And where I'm from, people make fun of the climate there because people from the Bay Area or LA are like, oh, the Central Valley, crappy weather. But guess what? The area around Fresno has way better weather than Chattanooga. So yeah, mid-May to mid-September is going to be awful in Fresno, but the winters are not that bad. Chattanooga, the weather is always bad. It's just as bad in the summertime, but you also have cold winters. So if you're moving to the part of the South where it's, along the Gulf Coast or like southern parts of Texas, like San Antonio or Austin, yeah, the weather's going to be nicer in the winter. But if you're moving to Dallas, Nashville, Atlanta, Raleigh, Charlotte, other places they're growing a lot, it gets really cold during the winter. So if you're from California, you have to accept the fact that the weather's rarely going to be nice. And you might get that month in April or October where the weather's nice, but the rest of the year is going to be pretty crappy. And not just that, it can rain any day of the year. So if you're living in California, it's not going to rain from May to September or even October. So you can plan outdoor things. You can do all kinds of, outdoor parties or plan hiking trips or whatever. But in the South, you just never know. It might pop up, thunderstorm that day, ruin your plans. So if you're from California, you take it for granted how weather is so nice. You're not going to get that in any other part of the country, especially the Southeast. And then you let people talk about how the politics are going to be different. Who cares? Why would that be a reason why you would move? That's pretty stupid. All those cities I just listed are all liberal, and that's where people are moving to. So you can be in a big city in the South that's going to be liberal. A small town in the West is going to be conservative. Who cares? That would be a really stupid reason to move somewhere. And if you're from the South and you're not sure what California's like, maybe you haven't been there, go to Asheville, North Carolina. And I've been saying this for years. Nobody believes me, but Asheville is more stereotypical Californian than pretty much anywhere in California. So if you're curious as to what it might be like, go to Asheville. And if you're hesitant of leaving California for any kind of cultural reasons, like maybe you're a mixed race couple or you're gay and you're worried about, I'm going to move to the South, people are going to give me crap for it. Well, no. Yeah, you might find that Jim Bob that's going to give you crap for being gay, but that's not really the way it is in the South. I was the maid of honor in a lesbian wedding on the walking bridge in downtown Chattanooga. So, it's not like that. Yeah, you can find people that are going to hate you wherever you go. So, California, you're going to find people that hate you too for whatever reason. So don't not move for the South for those kind of reasons either, because you can fit in no matter where you go. Atlanta is like one of the gayest cities in America. It's very gay friendly, as much as San Francisco, really. So don't be worried about those kind of cultural things, unless you may be moving to a little tiny town in Mississippi, but nobody's leaving California to move to a little tiny town in Mississippi. There are going to be some more, cultural annoyances, I guess you could say, associated with vices. So if you like to drink every now and then, it's going to be kind of annoying at times in the South, where a lot of places have dry counties or you can't get beer on Sundays, or maybe you can't get wine or liquor at all. In Chattanooga, a lot of places don't serve wine or liquor, so my wife and I are going to go out. She doesn't drink beer, so it's like, okay, does this place have wine? That can be kind of annoying. So if you go to a friend's house to watch the football game on a Sunday, you forget to buy beer, you go to the store and you see the refrigerator things all locked up with change. It's like, oh, great. So I forgot to get beer on Saturday. Some things are kind of annoying like that. If you like to smoke marijuana, be careful in the South, because what's perfectly legal in most of the Western states can wind you up in prison in the South. So, stuff like that can be a little annoying, because there's a little more of a nanny kind of thing going on in the South with the government, like, oh, we're going to tell you what you can do and how you can live your life kind of stuff. But, those are kind of annoyances you have to deal with by living in the South. But if you don't drink or smoke weed, the things don't matter at all. But those type of things you have to kind of just get used to and accept. But for me, other than the climate, the biggest problem I have with the Southeast and the eastern half of the U.S. in general is that there are people everywhere. So no matter where you go, there are people. So if you've seen some of my videos, I love the wilderness. I love being outdoors and being in the woods. And it's just a lot harder to find that in the South. And yeah, you can be on some trail in the Great Smoky Mountains or wherever, but you're going to still like hear a train in the distance kind of thing. And you're going to be close enough to a town to where you don't have much of a night sky. So you're never that far from society or from people in the South, or the East in general. So I don't know, to me, that's kind of annoying. But for most people, it's not going to be a big deal. But between the climate and the lack of wilderness, those are the two things that really bother me the most about the South. So in summation, if you're considering a move from California to the Southeast, maybe you got a job offer or you're just looking for a different type of opportunity, then go for it. Don't be worried about any kind of crazy culture shock, but at the same time, don't expect some huge financial boon either. And as cliche as it might sound, do not underestimate the climate. It is so important. So if you're considering a move from California to the Southeast, I strongly suggest you come down here in, say, July, spend a few weeks here and realize that's how it's going to be like for 4 or 5 months of the year. And then unless you're moving to like South Texas or whatever, we don't really have to use heat. You're going to be using the heat or the air conditioning about 300 days of the year or more. So if you're living in Atlanta or Nashville or Dallas, you are always running either the heat or the air. Pretty good indication that the weather is pretty crappy. So again, California, you have it so good. Don't take it for granted. It really is important. But the most telling thing about me moving from California to the Southeast is that, I've met other Californians out here, and, you'll ask them, do you like it? Are you glad you moved there? And the answer is never, yeah, it was the best thing I ever did in my life. I'm so happy. Oh my God, it's so much better here. And the answer is never, oh man, that was the dumbest thing I ever did. It was stupid. I really regret it. The answer is almost always, eh. And so people ask me, are you glad you made the move? Are you happy with it? Is it a good thing to do? My answer is, eh. I hope you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up to let me know you approve. And if you're interested in stuff about U.S. geography or cross-country road tripping and stuff about why this country is so great without some ridiculous political spin, consider subscribing to this channel, because that's kind of stuff that I'm posting. But yeah, thanks for watching. Geography King signing out and about to hit the Waffle House. Californians, you just don't know what you're missing.